Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India NewsHour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar arrives in Cyprus for informal EU foreign ministers' Munich meeting, holds bilateral talks with EU, Saudi and Ukrainian counterparts. US carries out new strikes in Iran against military sites as Trump says Iran and Oman will not control Strait of Hormuz. Peace deal remains elusive. In shooting, India's Esha Singh wins Munich World Cup with record-breaking performance, clinches gold in women's 25-meter pistol event. The world celebrates Eid al-Adha, commemorating devotion of Prophet Ibrahim. Occasion coincides with the annual Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia. Pilgrims hurled stones during the stoning of the devil ritual. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is visiting Cyprus to participate in the informal meeting of the EU Foreign Affairs Ministers. Dr. S. Jaishankar arrived at the venue in Lemoses at the invitation of Vice President of the European Commission, Kaja Kallas. The meeting will be conducted in the Munich format, which takes place once every 6 months and provides the opportunity for both open discussion and reflection on key issues, including current and the regional ones. Ahead of attending the meeting, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas. The two leaders discussed India-EU cooperation and the situation in West Asia. Dr. S. Jaishankar also held a good meeting with his Saudi counterpart, Faisal bin Farhan, and appreciated his assessment and insights on the evolving situation in West Asia. A useful meeting was also held between External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and his Ukrainian counterpart, Andriy Sybiha. They exchanged views on the Ukraine conflict and also discussed bilateral cooperation. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is visiting Canada with strengthening economic and commercial relations in focus. The Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal asserted that India has weathered every storm, emerged stronger and earned the trust of the world through perseverance and action. Addressing the faculty, researchers and students at the prestigious Monk School of Global Affairs and Public Policy at the University of Toronto, the minister spoke on expanding the horizons of India-Canada economic relationship and the shared opportunities that lie ahead. He also spoke about India's rapid economic progress, transformative reforms and growing global leadership under Prime Minister Modi, while also highlighting the immense potential for sustained engagement among academia, industry and policymakers to further strengthen bilateral trade, investment and people-to-people ties between the two nations.
The way the global turmoil is affecting world economies today, the way it is affecting relations between nations today, it's truly a very appropriate time to do a political reset in the Canada-India relations. And I'm indeed delighted to see that both Canada and India at the leadership level, the businesses and the people of both nations are well on track to working together, to looking at a bright future in this partnership. And I do hope that this visit and the discussions we are having around the comprehensive economic partnership with Canada will lay a very solid foundation for a bright future between the people of the two countries, businesses, and even stronger engagement at the global stage between our two governments.
The minister held an engaging interaction with representatives of the regional chambers and India-Canada corridor. He heard their constructive feedback on avenues to strengthen business collaboration and boost investment flows to further deepen economic engagement between the two countries. Piyush Goyal appreciated their role in strengthening trade, investment and people-to-people ties between India and Canada, and also stressed on building our cultural connect to unlock greater business opportunities and deepen economic cooperation.
Large cultural gatherings should now become a template for large business gatherings, for understanding each other, connecting with each other, connecting the dots on opportunities in Canada, opportunities in India. And when this two-way bridge of technology, talent and innovation gets set, sky is the limit in terms of potential.
He also visited the Ontario Centre of Innovation and was briefed on its initiatives to promote innovation, support startups and enable collaboration between industry, academia and government. He had a productive discussion with the Canada-India Tech Connect on emerging areas of technology, including AI and quantum. During his address to the gathering, the minister highlighted the thriving startup and innovation ecosystem in India and how Canada can partner in these areas. He also emphasized the vast potential for cooperation between the two countries in AI, clean tech, agri-tech and deep tech.
When I come to a room full of such enthusiasts, I can actually sense that the time is ripe, that along with the CEPA that we are going to conclude before the end of the year, we should also initiate a startup bridge between Canada and India, an innovation bridge between centers in Canada and India. And therefore, I'll be very pleased if Kareem, you and your team and Vikram and maybe Mr. Haider and all of you can help us in putting together, along with our High Commissioner and Consul General, a framework under which we can really take this partnership to the next level. And I'd encourage you to do that quickly so that it can be an outcome along with our CEPA. And it will be something that would have emerged out of this visit of mine.
Piyush Goyal then called on Premier of Ontario, Dow Ford, and discussed opportunities to deepen India-Ontario collaboration. The two sides also explored cooperation across manufacturing, technology, infrastructure, clean energy, food processing and critical minerals, while strengthening bilateral trade and investment partnerships. Ambassador of India to the US, Vinay Mohan Kwatra, held a meeting with the United States Deputy Secretary of Commerce, P. Dabar. Both the leaders held wide spectrum of discussions on India-US initiatives to strengthen institutional and industry cooperation in advanced technologies, including 6G protocols, quantum and evolving AI landscapes. A team of US officials will visit India from 1st to 4th of June for discussions on a bilateral trade agreement. India and the United States issued a joint statement on 7th of February, agreeing on a framework of an interim agreement regarding reciprocal and mutually beneficial trade. The framework reaffirmed the country's commitment to the broader India-US bilateral trade agreement negotiations. Earlier, an Indian delegation visited Washington, D.C. from 20th to 23rd of April this year for discussions. Over the last 12 years, India's economy transitioned from the fragile five into the world's fourth largest global economy, all under the dynamic leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We get you a detailed report. Over the last 12 years, India has emerged as the world's fourth largest economy, powered by GST reforms, record FDI inflows and a digital revolution led by UPI. The government data shows GDP tripling since 2014, FDI doubling and UPI crossing 172 billion transactions in 2024. With over 1.5 crore GST taxpayers and a booming startup ecosystem, India's economic engine is firmly in top gear.
India's economic transformation over the 12 years of the Modi government is well documented. India became the world's fourth largest economy in 2025, driven by strong domestic reform and the Atmanirbhar Bharat vision. India's nominal GDP tripled from 106.57 lakh crore rupees in 2014-15 to 331.03 lakh crore rupees in 2024-25. India remains the world's fastest growing major economy with real GDP growth at 6.5%. India is on track to become the third largest economy by 2030 with a GDP of $7.3 trillion.
I've seen people when the country had about 40% of people below the poverty line, and now I can see people only 2 to 3% below the poverty line. The sharp difference that is there, that is emerging across the spectrum, urban areas, rural areas, across the spectrum, I feel very proud that the policies that have been pursued, especially in the last 10, 12 years, especially because the focus has been on financial inclusion in the last 12 years, those policies are showing results. It's very, very satisfactory policy performance that people have come out of the poverty line. Very satisfying for a policy maker.
8 years of GST reforms have strengthened India's tax system. Over 1.52 crore active GST registrations were recorded as of July 2025. GST has reduced tax burden, improved transparency, and integrated the domestic market across states. The GST reform of October 2025 helped ease financial compliance for citizens and MSMEs. India's digital public infrastructure is one of the biggest success stories globally. Government data suggests digital transactions grew 9x in volume between FY18 and FY 2024. UPI processed 172 billion transactions in 2024 alone, making it the world's largest real-time payment system.
India is today seen as a very stable partner around the world. And people are rethinking their supply chains, they are rethinking where they would like to invest. So if we can be, not only that we have an environment, but if we can project, which we are doing, an environment which is predictable, which is stable, and which they can rely upon, lot of investment should start flowing into the country. Every crisis can be turned into a great opportunity.
Ministry of Commerce data shows a massive rise in FDI due to liberalized policies and investor-friendly reforms. FDI inflows increased from US dollars 36.05 billion in 2013-14 to US dollars 81.04 billion in FY 2024-25. Over US dollars 748.78 billion FDI has been received between 2014 and 2025. That's a 143% increase over the previous decade. Manufacturing FDI rose 18% in FY 2024-25. Services saw an increase of 19%, software and hardware 16%, trading 8%. India's transformation is driven by entrepreneurship, innovation, and digital public infrastructure. PLI schemes, MSME reforms, and digital infrastructure expansion have strengthened the startup ecosystem.
The question is that how much and how soon what would get replaced by AI and what would get replaced and where it would get redeployed. So we have to, especially in banking and financial services sector, we have to focus on few things. First, how does it benefit the end customer in order for him to avail a financial services at much cheaper, lower cost? And second, the operating benefit which will come to the financial institution should not become so dominant focus that we forget the human element involved in that.
India's services exports more than doubled from US dollars 158 billion in 2013-14 to US dollars 387 billion in 2024-25, a strong indicator of IT and startup sector growth. Clearly, India's macroeconomic fundamentals and broader digital and innovation push have provided a solid foundation for the Indian economy going forward. Bureau Report, DD India.
As India sharpens its focus on scientific research and innovation, Mumbai witnessed the launch of the country's first privately funded institute dedicated exclusively to physics research, Lodha Theoretical Physics Institute. Envisioned as a global collaborative platform, it aims to bring together leading researchers from India and across the world to advance cutting-edge work in theoretical physics. By fostering sustained research, academic dialogue and international exchange, the institute seeks to nurture a new generation of physics capable of driving breakthroughs in fundamental science and contributing meaningfully to the global scientific community. MD and CEO of Lodha Developers, Abhishek Lodha, said that the foundation aimed to contribute meaningfully to India's journey towards becoming a developed nation by pursuing excellence through such initiatives ranging from nurturing young talent to promoting innovation and research. You're watching DD India NewsHour. We're waiting for a short break, but after the break, Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in Kazakhstan on a two-day visit to attend a summit meeting of leaders of the Eurasian Economic Union. U.S. Secretary of State says instability in Cuba poses a national security threat. Uganda closes border with Democratic Republic of Congo to curb Ebola spread. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India NewsHour. The US military has carried out new strikes overnight in Iran, targeting a military site that officials believed posed a threat to US forces and commercial maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz. An American official said the US military shot down 4 Iranian drones and struck a control center in the southern city of Bandar Abbas, describing the actions as purely defensive. The new strikes come just days after the US military attacked several missile sites and mine-laying boats in the same area. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump dismissed a report that Iran and Oman would manage shipping through the Strait of Hormuz as part of a deal to end the war. Trump said the Strait of Hormuz would open immediately, but that it would not be controlled by anybody.
International waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine. In addition to that, you have a lot of boats. You have about 1,500 boats in the strait wanting to get out, and at the right time, we'll release them.
Earlier on Wednesday, Trump said that he was not yet satisfied on a deal with Iran, adding that the U.S. was not discussing easing sanctions on the country.
Iran is very much intent. They want very much to make a deal. So far, they haven't gotten there. We're not satisfied with it, but we will be. We will be either that or we'll have to just finish the job. But their Navy is gone, as I've said 1,000 times. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Everything's gone, and they're negotiating on fumes. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we have to go back and finish it. Maybe we don't. Right now, I mean, you can speak to Steve Witkoff and Jared. They're doing a good job. But right now, I think it looks like they want to just make a deal. They want to. They have. I don't think they have a choice.
The Trump administration on Wednesday placed additional sanctions on Iran, targeting the country's newly created agency that is trying to control shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. The sanctions target Iran's Persian Gulf Strait Authority and any person or entity cooperating with the agency, announced earlier this month that approves transit in the strait and charges tolls that could reach as high as $2 million per vessel. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said in a statement that the Iranian military's latest attempt to extort in fact, extort global maritime trade is proof that economic fury has left the regime desperate for cash. The move is the latest U.S. effort to use economic leverage on top of military action to push Iran's leadership into an agreement to end the war and open the waterway. The Israeli military struck an apartment building in Gaza City on Wednesday, saying it had targeted 2 central Hamas militants in the northern Gaza Strip. Israel said on Wednesday it had killed the new head of Hamas's armed wing in Gaza, Mohammed Odeh, after killing his predecessor earlier this month despite an ongoing ceasefire. In a joint statement, the Israeli military said, in fact, the Israeli military and the Shin Bet domestic security agency said Odeh died on Tuesday, saying that he had been appointed head of the brigades after the May 15th killing of Ezzeddin al-Haddad. Health officials in Gaza said at least 4 people were killed in the strike on the building. The Israeli military said the operation was aimed at the militants. The Israeli military has issued evacuation orders for large parts of southern Lebanon, declaring the areas combat zones ahead of fresh strikes against Hezbollah. The Israel Defense Forces urged residents to move north of Zaharani River, some 25 miles from Israel's border. The IDF said it would act with extreme force, accusing Hezbollah of repeated ceasefire violations. It is the largest evacuation order since the ceasefire took effect on 17th of April, covering about 14% of Lebanese territory. Earlier on Wednesday, Israel carried out strikes on the southern city of Tyre. Hezbollah, which itself accused Israel of violating the ceasefire, said its fighters had clashed with Israeli troops. Wednesday's strikes came after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced an expansion of its ground operation following Hezbollah drone attacks on troops occupying part of southern Lebanon and on civilians in northern Israel. Let's get to updates from Europe now. Russia has warned Armenia that it would suspend or terminate the supply of cheap oil, gas and rough diamonds if Yerevan pressed ahead with its bid to join the European Union. Moscow issued the warning ahead of a parliamentary election on June 7th, with opinion polls giving the civil contract party of Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan a comfortable lead over the pro-Russian rivals. However, the Armenian ministry told state media it had received no such letter. Pashinyan had strengthened ties with the West, angering Moscow. He told an election rally that Armenia did not plan to leave the Eurasian Union and that membership of the body was incomplete, in fact compatible with its EU aspirations. Earlier, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio visited Yerevan on Tuesday and signed a strategic partnership agreement in a sign of warming ties, and Armenia last year adopted a law launching its EU accession process. U.S. President Donald Trump said in a social media post on Wednesday that Pashinyan had his complete and total support in the June 7th elections, calling him a great friend and leader. Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in Kazakhstan on Wednesday on a 2-day visit that will include a state visit and taking part in a summit meeting of the leaders of the Eurasian Economic Union due on Friday. Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev met Putin on the arrival in Astana on Wednesday. The Eurasian Economic Union is a Russia-led free trade grouping that also includes Kazakhstan, Belarus, Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, but Russia is by far the largest economy in the union. The Russian leader will preside over the signing of a deal outlining parameters for the construction of a nuclear power plant in Kazakhstan during his visit. While once again, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has written to U.S. President Donald Trump and Congress addressing the critical lack of air defense missiles in Ukraine. In a letter, Zelensky said Ukraine relies almost exclusively on the U.S.-made Patriot systems to intercept Russian ballistic missiles, calling them the most effective defense against such attacks. He urged Washington to remain engaged and help secure additional Patriot PAC-3 interceptor missiles and Patriot systems to protect Ukrainian cities from Russian strikes. Speaking in his nightly video address, Zelensky said that global attention had shifted to other conflicts, including the war in Iran, but warned that the conflict in Europe remained very bloody and must also be brought to an end. French President Emmanuel Macron said on Wednesday that Norway had agreed to join its nuclear umbrella, becoming the latest country to receive France's nuclear protection amid European concerns over US commitment to security in the region. In March, France offered to extend the protection of its nuclear umbrella to other European countries. While in the United States, protesters gathered outside the Delaney Hall detention center in Newark, New Jersey, calling for the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement facility to be closed and for detainees to be released or treated more humanely. Detainees at Delaney Hall Detention Center are staging a hunger strike over alleged poor conditions, delayed medical care, and what relatives and advocates describe as retaliation by authorities. A letter attributed to detainees demanded release on bond for parole, faster immigration proceedings, and improved conditions. Advocates outside the facility said transport movements were intended to break detainee solidarity. On the rising conflict with Cuba, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that Cuba is in a lot of trouble. He argued that instability in Cuba, located close to the United States, poses a national security concern.
Cuba's in a lot of trouble because, unfortunately, for them, it's run by a bunch of incompetent communists. Being communist is bad. Being an incompetent communist is like the worst. And but the country's been taken over by this company called Gaesa that basically controls 70% of the economy. None of the money in that company goes to help the Cuban people. None of it. So we'll be talking to them. We'll be working on it. You know, we want something good for the Cuban people, and hopefully there'll be a good outcome there for them. There needs to be. It's 90 miles from our shores, and having a failed state 90 miles from our shores is a threat to the national security of the United States.
Let's get you more news from across the world. Relatives of detainees and human rights activists marched to the Supreme Court in El Salvador on Wednesday to challenge the state of emergency that has remained in effect since March 2022. Members of a group representing victims of the measure carried photos of detained individuals and demanded the release of those they believe are innocent. Salvadoran media reported that this was the group's fourth legal challenge, though previous attempts were unsuccessful. Meanwhile, the ruling New Ideas Party extended the measure for the 51st time. Authorities credit it with reducing homicides and enabling thousands of gang arrests, while rights organizations warn of due process violations and unfair mass trials. Uganda's government announced on Wednesday that it has immediately closed its border with the neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo for 4 weeks to help contain the spread of Ebola. Senior health official Diana Atwin said that Ebola response workers, humanitarian and security teams, and cargo transport would be allowed to cross. Anyone permitted to enter Uganda from Congo must complete a mandatory 21-day self-isolation period. Uganda has confirmed 7 Ebola infections and 1 death linked to the outbreak centered in Congo's Ituri province. The World Health Organization reports hundreds of deaths and suspected cases from the rare Bundibugyo strain, prompting international concern. India has sent emergency pharmaceutical supplies to support efforts to contain the Ebola outbreak in Congo, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said on Wednesday. In a social media post, Ethiopia-headquartered Africa CDC said the consignment donated by India was received in Uganda by its Eastern Africa Regional Coordinating Center. The supplies include essential diagnostics, therapeutics, infection prevention and control materials, and case management support, which will be deployed to affected communities in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, it said. Africa CDC praised India for its continued commitment to improving health security across Africa. India has strengthened healthcare cooperation with African nations in recent years, especially during emergencies like the COVID-19 pandemic and the current Ebola crisis. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration has ordered SpaceX to investigate why the Super Heavy booster from its Starship Flight 12 test flight crashed into the Gulf of Mexico. The FAA says it will oversee every step of the investigation, approve the final report and any corrective actions. The 407-foot Starship lifted off from Texas on May 22nd. Minutes after state separation, the booster's engines failed on its return, resulting in a hard splashdown in the Gulf. There were no injuries or public property damage. Meanwhile, the spacecraft itself successfully deployed 20 mock satellites and completed a planned splashdown in the Indian Ocean. Experts say the booster mishap is unlikely to delay the Starship program, which is already proven in similar configurations. Starship is central to the company's ambitions, lowering launch costs, expanding its Starlink network, and supporting future missions. A look at other stories making it to the headlines from across the world. Now, 2 cosmonauts from Roscosmos carried out a spacewalk outside the International Space Station on Wednesday to retrieve scientific equipment and install new hardware for solar radiation experiments. The mission is expected to last more than 5 hours. In the Arctic waters between Norway and Greenland, researchers aboard a Greenpeace expedition are exploring deep-sea ecosystems in search of unknown species. The month-long mission also aims to raise awareness about the environmental risks linked to deep-sea mining. You're watching DD India News. I'll be heading for a short break, but after the break, citizens in India and Europe brace up alike for a severe heat wave spell. Eid celebrations coincide with final days of Hajj pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Let's get to updates from different parts of the world and India on weather. Europe is sweltering under an unprecedented early heat wave with temperatures breaking records across Britain, France and beyond. The UN climate chief has warned that the extreme weather is a brutal reminder of the spiraling impacts of the climate crisis. Britain and France have reported their hottest ever May this week as the heat dome pushed temperatures more typical of midsummer. In Paris, residents flocked to the Saint Martin Canal to cool off despite a swimming ban, with police presence minimal and only occasional reminders to stay safe, allowing people to enjoy the rare relief. Ireland is also experiencing record-breaking May heat, with temperatures climbing above 30 degrees Celsius. Experts caution that these unseasonal heat waves underline the growing impact of climate change, raising concerns about what increasingly extreme temperatures could mean for the future. In Santarém, Portugal, locals sought refuge in rivers and shaded areas as temperatures soared to new levels few remember. The hot, dry conditions have sharply increased the risk of rural fires and prompted many municipalities in southern Portugal to issue maximum wildfire warnings. And back home, the Met Department predicted continued heatwave conditions across several parts of the country, along with thunderstorms, dust storms and heavy rainfall warnings in different regions. Heatwave conditions accompanied by thunderstorms and lightning are likely over Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Haryana, Delhi and Uttar Pradesh, while a red alert for heavy rainfall has been issued for these regions for tomorrow, according to the Weather Department. Severe heatwave conditions were also forecast over Madhya Pradesh, with dust storms expected in parts of Rajasthan too. Meanwhile, heavy rainfall is expected across several parts of northeast India during the week ahead. All right, our correspondent Jessica joins us from New Delhi. Jessica, good morning. We tell our viewers that citizens in India and Europe, in fact, are bracing up for extreme heat wave spell. You're here in Delhi. Let us know, how has the day begun? And what are the IMD predictions for the days ahead?
Well, it's quite hot in the national capital, much hotter than it was in the previous years as temperatures continue to rise and people continue to stay indoors given the kind of heat wave situation we're witnessing here in India. But as predicted in Northeast, there could be rains, and in the coming days, there could be the heat could intensify a little. And in that sense, the advisories, of course, have been issued to that effect, to stay indoors, to stay hydrated, as well as avoiding direct sun as much as possible. It is much hard for the laborers and workers out there who have no option but to continue with their daily work in this sweltering heat. So, and also, of course, the kind of conditions that are expected would make it much more difficult in the coming days. But this has been a tough time in a sense for weather, not just for India, but across the world as temperatures rise. Reports suggesting in UK and France, the situation is much worse than anticipated. It's the highest temperatures that are hitting those regions, in parts of Europe also suffering along with that. It's all a result of massive climate change and, of course, the levels of carbon emissions that are sort of depleting the ozone layer and leading to this extreme weather conditions. So in that sense, a lot of focus has also been on green transition and less consumption of fossil fuels. But that's an aim that the world is getting at while dealing with massive heat and extremes of weather at this point in time.
All right, Jessica, also very quickly tell us, has the IMD predicted any relief from this sweltering heat anytime soon?
Well, the heat wave will continue, but we'll wait for more updates from the IMD, as you pointed out. Relief as such, as we know, this heat could only intensify, but we'll have to see on how the weather gods tend to get kind on us humans.
All right, Jessica, we'll leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those updates from Delhi. And the golden city of Jaisalmer turned red hot as Nautapa, regarded as the fiercest phase of summer, tightened its grip over Rajasthan's desert region, forcing authorities to step up relief measures for residents battling the scorching heat.
The golden city of Jaisalmer has now turned red hot as Nautapa, believed to be the hottest 9 days of summer, grips Rajasthan's desert region. For residents, the heat begins to feel unbearable from the morning hours. No one is spared as scorching winds sweep through the streets under the blazing sun. The blistering heat is also impacting businesses in Jaisalmer, with people staying away from markets and shops during the afternoon hours. Meanwhile, authorities say they have implemented measures to help residents cope with the extreme conditions. Protective sheds and drinking water facilities have been set up at key locations, and water sprinklers are coming in handy to help people on the streets feel a bit cooler.
नगर परिषद द्वारा सार्वजनिक स्थानों पे हमने जो छाया पानी की व्यवस्था करी है, जहां पब्लिक का आना जाना रहता है और पब्लिक खड़े रहती है जहां पे। इसके अलावा हम भरी दोपहर में आम सड़कों पे पानी का छिड़काव करते हैं ताकि थोड़ा घूमने फिरने वालों को या कोई आवश्यक कार्य से आने जाने वालों को राहत मिले। और मेरा तो यही कहना है, चिकित्सा विभाग द्वारा जो गाइडलाइन जारी की गई है हीट वेव को लेकर, उसका पालन करें और जो दिन का जो पीक टाइम होता है गर्मी का, उस समय अनावश्यक कार्य से बाहर नहीं निकलें और बचाव भी उपचार है इसका।
The heat is on across India, and with Nautapa just beginning, residents of Rajasthan's desert city of Jaisalmer are bracing for even more searing summer days ahead.
In other updates, on his 143rd birth anniversary, India honors Veer Savarkar, a fierce revolutionary, iconic freedom fighter and visionary social reformer. His uncompromising struggle for political independence and bold crusade against the caste system continue to inspire millions.
On May 28th, India remembers one of its most fiery revolutionaries, thinkers and social reformers, Vinayak Damodar Savarkar, fondly known as Veer Savarkar, on his birth anniversary. Born on May 28, 1883 in the village of Bhagur near Nashik, Maharashtra, into a Chitpavan Brahmin family, Savarkar displayed sparks of patriotism from a young age. He founded the secret revolutionary society Abhinav Bharat, studied law in London, and became a vocal supporter of India's independence. His seminal book, The Indian War of Independence 1857, reframed the 1857 revolt as the first unified war against British rule, inspiring generations of freedom fighters. Arrested in 1910, Savarkar was sentenced to 2 life terms, 50 years, in the dreaded cellular jail in the Andamans known as Kalapani. He endured brutal torture, forced labor, and solitary confinement, yet his spirit remained unbroken. After his conditional release, Savarkar led the Hindu Mahasabha and emerged as a powerful voice for social reform. He fiercely advocated the complete abolition of the caste system and untouchability. His 7-point vision for social transformation included making Vedic literature accessible to all, not just one caste, calling it civilizational knowledge and India's unique gift to humanity, breaking caste-based vocational rigidity, encouraging people to pursue professions based on aptitude and ability rather than birth. A prolific writer, poet, and orator, Savarkar championed courage, unity, and unyielding love for the motherland. He passed away on February 26, 1966 at the age of 83 after a self-chosen fast unto death, Atma Arpan. On this day, his message of fearless patriotism, social equality, and national rejuvenation continues to inspire millions. Veer Savarkar's life remains a shining example that true freedom demands both political independence and social transformation. Antara Sinha for DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi remembered Veer Savarkar on his birth anniversary. In a social media post, he said, and I quote him, "His courage and patriotism will always inspire people. His intellect and emphasis on social reforms are also noteworthy." Eid al-Adha is the second of the 2 main festivals in Islam alongside Eid al-Fitr. It falls on the 10th day of Dhu al-Hijjah, the 12th and final month of Islamic lunar calendar. The festival signifies sacrifice, charity and compassion, strengthening bonds with community and friends.
Eid al-Adha, or Festival of Sacrifice, is an important Islamic festival celebrated worldwide on 10th of final month of the Islamic lunar calendar, Dhu al-Hijjah, often referred to as the month of Hajj or pilgrimage. Dhul al-Hijjah holds supreme importance in Islam, featuring the pivotal day of Arafah on the 9th day of the month and the celebration of Eid al-Adha on the 10th day. The day commemorates the story of test of Prophet Ibrahim's faith. Eid al-Adha, also called Bakrid in South Asia, demonstrates the willingness of Muslims' submission to Allah's will by sacrificing an animal. The day begins with special congregational prayers at mosque or namaz, followed by community gatherings and preparation of traditional festive meals. Later, people visit their friends and families wearing new clothes. People also exchange gifts, sweets, and share meals together. This year, Muslim community in India is celebrating Eid al-Adha on May 28th after Dhul al-Hijjah crescent moon was not sighted on Sunday 17th May. The festival signifies sacrifice, charity, and compassion and strengthens bonds with community and friends. The festival encourages forgiveness among people and supporting those in need. Bureau Report, DD India.
Eid celebrations coincide with the last days of the Hajj in Saudi Arabia, where on Wednesday, thousands of pilgrims threw pebbles at a large pillar in a symbolic ritual, one of the final days of the pilgrimage. The Hajj, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, is required once in a lifetime of every Muslim who can afford it and is physically able. President Draupadi Murmu has extended her heartfelt greetings to all fellow citizens, especially the Muslim brothers and sisters, on the occasion of Eid al-Zuha. In a social media post, she said, and I quote, "This festival is a symbol of dedication, sacrifice and selflessness. This festival inspires us to serve humanity, particularly the underprivileged sections. On this occasion, let us move forward with greater commitment to spread love and harmony in society." I unquote. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also extended Eid al-Adha greetings. In a social media post, he said, and I quote him, "May this occasion deepen the spirit of brotherhood and happiness in our society, praying for everyone's success and good health." You're watching DD India NewsHour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, Meta unveils paid subscription plans for Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp. Two-time Paralympic gold medalist Sumit Antil adds another glorious chapter in the history of para javelin throw competitions. In the French Open, Novak Djokovic keeps his pursuit of a 25th Grand Slam alive to meet Joao Fonseca in the third round on Friday.
India is home to some of the most venomous snakes in the world. 50,000 Indians almost die every year because of snake bites. And in that moment, knowing what to do can really help save a life.
Students know, they know climate change, they know global warming, they know plastics, they know microplastics. They really know what it means on a daily basis. So the connect with the environment is missing. The connect to real life every day is missing.
A eucalypt in a new environment, you're very likely to change what we call fire regimes. So fire regimes are the patterns of fire across the landscape and through time.
We add the already colonized mycelium into this sort of jute bags, and we take it to the forest for the process of which is called mycoremediation, where we are introducing more mycelium in a certain ecosystem for basically helping the ecosystem to thrive more and also for the mycelium to grow in the same process.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India NewsHour. Let's talk of business updates now. Meta launched paid subscription plans for its flagship apps on Wednesday, marking a major push by the tech giant to diversify beyond its long-time reliance on advertising revenue. The move comes as Meta faces investor scrutiny over its massive AI spending. As per the report, Instagram Plus and Facebook Plus will be priced at $3.99 per month, while WhatsApp Plus will cost $2.99 per month. Amazon MGM Studios is moving into AI-driven children's programming, announcing it has greenlit the first 3 shows developed under a new initiative using artificial intelligence. The Gen AI Creators Fund allows filmmakers, digital creators and startups to use AI to produce projects in a fraction of the usual time, cutting what normally takes years down to just months. Hollywood unions and artists, however, have raised concerns that AI could replace writers, actors and other creatives. Oil prices jumped about 2% in early Thursday trading after fresh U.S. strikes overnight on an Iranian military site. Brent crude futures rose to $96.19 a barrel. The July contract is set to expire on Friday. The U.S. West Texas Intermediate futures were at $90.41. And from business, we now turn focus to sports. India opened its medal account at the ISSF World Cup in Munich with a golden performance by Esha Singh. The Olympian clinched gold in the women's 25 meters pistol event with a world record and junior world record score of 43. Esha delivered a dominant display in the final, finishing 5 shots ahead of Germany's Doreen Wennekamp, who settled for a silver. The victory marks India's first medal at the Munich ISSF World Cup after 2 days of competition. Two-times Paralympic gold medalist Sumit Antil added another glorious chapter in the history of para javelin throw competitions with a breathing throw to improve his own world record at the men's javelin F64 category at the 8th Indian Open International Para Athletics Championships 2026 in Bengaluru on Wednesday. The Indian star bettered his previous mark of 73.29 meters set in 2023, underlining his dominance in the event. India will host 2 major continental athletic events for the first time, with Chandigarh set to stage the 2027 Asian Relay Championships and Bhubaneswar to host the 2028 Asian Indoor Championships. The decision was taken at the Asian Athletics Association Council meeting held in Hong Kong. The events would provide a major boost to athletics and sports culture in the country by giving Indian fans and athletes an opportunity to witness the top Asian competitors in action. The Asian Relay Championships will be held in May 2027 in Chandigarh and will feature 6 relay events, including men's, women's and mixed relays, while the 2028 Asian Indoor Championships will take place in January in Bhubaneswar. Talking of IPL, Rajasthan Royals stormed into the qualifier 2 of IPL 2026 season after defeating Sunrisers Hyderabad by 47 runs in the eliminator. Chasing a daunting target of 244, Hyderabad were bowled out for 196 in 19.2 overs, despite a few aggressive knocks in the middle order. Earlier, Rajasthan Royals had posted a massive 243, powered by explosive batting performances at the top. With this victory, Rajasthan now move on to face Gujarat Titans in qualifier 2. Third seed Novak Djokovic continued his pursuit of a record-extending 25th Grand Slam title at Roland Garros, advancing to the third round with a hard-fought 6-3, 6-2, 6-7, 6-3, 7-9 victory over France's Valentin Royer on court Philippe Chater on Wednesday. The win also saw Djokovic reach the third round of Roland Garros for a remarkable 21st consecutive time, equaling Roger Federer's open-era record for most consecutive third-round appearances at a single Grand Slam. Wednesday evening also saw 19-year-old Joao Fonseca rallying past 20-year-old Dino Prismic 3-6, 4-6, 6-3, 6-1, 6-2 to reach the third round and set a blockbuster clash against 24 times major champion Djokovic scheduled on Friday. Getting you other news now, 66th Fruit Festival is in progress in Tamil Nadu's Coonoor, and the organizers have transformed 4.5 tons of fruits into an imaginative display, bringing dinosaurs and other creatures to life. The exhibition, part of the annual Summer Festival, combines vibrant colors, creative artistry and natural produce to create a spectacular display. Take a look. With those interesting visuals, we end this edition of DD India News Hour. Bart, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. Now, this app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.